Back on. Okay. Um, let's talk about facility challenges, and if anybody's got a secret that nobody else knows about, I'll just share ours. We're actually have our clubs out searching who will be open for sure, and we're going to utilize those facilities as much as possible. For example, we have one in the upper part of our stakes, a 17 court, that's obviously being used for volleyball and basketball and some other stuff. So we're going to use it, maximize it to the most as we can. And then any other facilities, I think Kevin does this. We're going to go Saturday and Sunday. So we'll have a certain age division on Saturday and another age division on Sunday. But other than that, we did a survey sent out last week to find out, get a straw poll, how many teams plan to attend what. And we're going to have some problems with hosts being able to get facilities and may have to cancel or reduce what we can get. And then how do you accept, whether it's just first come, first serve and first paid. But we'd love to hear some other people from other regions, what you're doing and ideas. Go ahead, Johnny, your pretty face is up.
Well, I can tell you about what's happening in our area right now. Sorry, Andy. All of our high schools are playing and has started the second week of August, and everything so far has been good. All of our colleges are all starting this, some of our colleges some of our colleges played last weekend, and then everybody plays this weekend. So I think, and all of our schools are going, and so we'll see how it goes. But everybody, and they're letting everybody's going to the gym to watch everybody play, and it's a little scary, but so far so good.
Andy.
Okay. Sorry about Joni. I didn't mean to step on you there. We are very fortunate to have facilities, volleyball specific facilities. We have over 100 courts that are volleyball specific, that are owned or operated by volleyball clubs. They're all open. We've had several of them have had youth leagues, not associated with USA Volleyball, but have tested a lot of different formats, and one parent in, half as many courts being used, several different things. So we're kind of using that as a test for when our tournament season opens back up. Our convention center is not open. We anticipate for it to be open soon. We have our schools, our small schools, all in the state started back August, the first week of August. Our large schools, which are the two largest classifications, started up yesterday. We've had matches going on. We haven't had any outbreaks. Nothing, there are cases in all the schools, or there's cases in the schools, but they've got the protocols in order, and there's some schools doing blended. Our colleges are back. Some are doing blended, some are doing all online. So it's kind of a mixture of everything. Our case count is going down, even in Dallas County, which was one of the hot spots. And they start back to school virtually yesterday. They go back in the 1st of October in person, but their sports have started.
Thank you. Does anybody out there have facility challenges? It sounds like Andy's got a lot of people that has oil wells in their backyard and builds a lot of facilities. So maybe you can have them move to your region. But who has facility challenges and have found an answer to those, or has ideas?
Jimmy, we're going to have a lot of facility challenges up here. New England is, some schools are going spring, some schools are going fall, which is going to be a problem when you have a club where kids are playing in the fall, and then half the other kids are going to play in the spring, and we're going to have challenges with getting schools. So we're starting an online page that's going to try to help clubs share what's available and have these facilities that are open for rent come in and let us know that they have court space available. But 80% of our clubs up here use high schools, so that's going to be a huge problem. My club personally had a janitor who told us, yeah, we're all good, you're not using the gym, you can come in, but the school department had a hard and fast no till the first of the year.
Wow.
It's going to be a challenge up here with all our states doing different things, and all our kids, even within the state, doing different seasons.
Got it. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, we're having problems up here in New York, the same as Dave has. Our governor's pretty tough. They're letting some of the schools go back to virtual, and some of them are opening up, but go to school 2 days a week or go in the morning, and the other half of the student body come in the afternoon, and it's still only 3 days. So there's a lot of that. All my colleges that I usually use for facilities have all told me that they absolutely won't let us have anything until January, and even that decision hasn't been made yet. Hopefully they will make that, because I have a couple of fairly large colleges with 6 or 8 courts that I could use, but none of the high schools are going to rent us any of the facilities. So a lot of my clubs that have just high schools as far as sites to practice in are looking for churches. They're looking for everything else that they can look for, but we're still probably 15 to 20% of our clubs that are saying they're just inactive until they can find a site, because they don't have one available. So,
John, can I ask you a question? Are
Yeah.
you having problems with facilities for practices or weekend tournaments, or both?
well, mostly just for practices for clubs, because I have an armory that has 6 courts that is a private institution, and we're on the top of their list for getting in. And then we have a couple of paid facilities and one club that has a 6-court facility themselves. So we can get the tournaments running. But as far as the club, some of them just won't have practice time.
Are those facilities open during the week where they could rent for practices?
Well, not really. The one club that has their own facility is the largest club I have, and it takes up all their practice time. The college that we use, no, they can't. And I have one other facility that's a paid facility that we use for tournaments, but practice time, my second largest club is in there, and they practice 5 nights a week. So until we run practices, maybe they could get some practice time on the weekends for other sports. It's something we're working on, but they're a little tough to work with.
Andy, it's sad to say, I've ran across a few clubs who wouldn't put this in writing, but basically said, this is a way to reduce my competition, which is sad.
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. Let's be honest, a majority of the decisions that are made by clubs are financial decisions.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it costs the kids. But we could start looking at some things outside the box, and maybe instead of running a weekend tournament, we run a league where clubs come in and practice for an hour, and they play a match or two, and you do 3 or 4 waves of that. One, if you don't use officials, it keeps your population or your count down. If you just have 2 teams on a court, but if you have people come in and get creative and do practices for an hour and then 2 matches, they get almost a full day of tournaments, but they get their practice in as well. So there's some things we could do a little bit differently that we haven't really ever looked at before.
Interesting idea. Anybody else out there can share some ideas or thoughts?
And we have a few clubs in New England that you can't have a tournament in certain states. Massachusetts, one of them, but you can in Connecticut. And so we have a few clubs getting together and trying to piecemeal a little bit of a tournament structure to go to Connecticut and play at a facility down there. So they're getting creative in how they're trying to get programming in for their kids. And even if there's travel involved, there's a couple hours travel involved, they're willing to do the work to get that together, but they are going to play under our umbrella and we will sanction all of the events. So just trying to get some programming in the fall in case a second pandemic hits.
Good thought. Others? Other ideas? How about it, Mr. Bishop, idea guy?
I was trying to fly low this morning.
Sorry you got caught.
Yeah. Well, Florida is in the second highest category of deaths per 100,000, but we seem to be trending a little better than we were in the past. We still have 3 counties in the southern part of the state that are going pretty slowly, but our club directors are getting fairly creative down there. The high school market is tough, but most of our high school volleyball has restarted. Started August 24th. They started playing here this past week. I haven't heard of any major shutdowns. I'm sure there have been a few rolling ones. So what this is doing is creating a lot of opportunities for those private schools who have gym space that all of a sudden need some extra income. So the club directors are finding those. They're having to consolidate, obviously, some of their schedules and practices, but people are moving forward. And we finished majority of our club renewals, and we're about 100, a little over 100 clubs have renewed compared to the 145 we had last year. Some are still just trying to figure out if they can get gym space and all of that. The interest level is high, and we're not seeing much of a downward trend yet in participation. But our first indoor events will start in November and December. I see AJ's on the call. He'll have a girls indoor event, and then our boys stuff will start in November. So, I mean, everyone seems to be moving forward with some level of confidence. We are sanctioning events. We're doing, asking our event promoters to put together safety plans for the early ones until we kind of get, everybody gets their feet wet and we get back in motion. So no real groundbreaking revelations here, Jimmy. We're just trying to assist our clubs and our promoters with moving forward. And there's a lot of contingency planning, obviously, with attendance and spectators and court spacing and things of that nature. So I think some of that we won't have to nail down until we get a little bit closer to some of those first events. But that's what's going on down here.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else want to share something on this topic? Facilities, challenge of facilities, creative ideas. Quiet group this morning.
Jimmy, I would add, and I think I mentioned this on a previous call, it just crossed my mind. We did launch our Think Outside the Gym project down here. We rented I don't know, a couple, not rented, but purchased a couple dozen outdoor net systems, and we've been loaning them out to clubs at no charge so that they could take their practices and activities outside to the grass fields. And we've had a decent pickup on that. It was a little bit of an investment. We used some grant funding that we had been given previously and purchased those net systems. So that seems to be working for those clubs, especially those clubs down in South Florida who are having a real challenge getting into gymnasiums. So I'll add that.
Yeah, you're lucky to have warm weather year round. Andy, Jamie wasn't on this morning. He may have been busy. Any update from USAV perspective that you know about?
In anything specific or?
Well, they sent a letter out recently encouraging, working with the schools, but I don't know if there's anything there or anything else that you might want to share
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah, they sent the letter out to the National Federation, but their structure is similar to our structure. The national governing body can recommend things, but ultimately it's the state association that decides. So USA Volleyball and any, the National Federation of High School can say, we want you to allow people to play both, but the state ultimately makes that decision. So
Yeah.
it's nice that they're both supporting it, and I hope it sways it, but it's not a definite for sure. I don't know if everybody got, Skip, you had a question, you had asked me a question about the return to play guidelines. Did everybody get a copy of the email that Cassidy sent? It's a very good signage for facilities. I don't know if anybody's looked at that or not. The link was broken for a while. I saw it this morning, and it's got some really good signage for the return to play and what USA Volleyball. They have not amended any of that. I don't anticipate them amending their stance on things. I think what they discovered early on is that every state is different, and that the local authorities know better what's good for their areas than a national organization. I think the USA Volleyball took a position that basically says the safety of all our players is of the utmost importance, to follow those guidelines, and failure to follow those guidelines would mean that they wouldn't sanction their stuff. But they were not going to go in and override what a state or a city or a county is telling people.
Okay. Can that that link, get that to Steve, let him post on that RVA site? If it's not already up.
Yeah, I'll need to check and find out if it is.
Oh, he just posted it.
Is it in the private area? Yeah, I don't know if we can post it on the website because it does have the USA Volleyball marks on it.
Okay.
So,
He put it in the chat room for anybody.
Okay, good. Yeah, we all have the permission to use it.
Okay.
I don't know if they want other entities using it and cutting out the USA Volleyball logo or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Before we move to the next topic, anybody else on facility ideas? Real quick.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yep.
In that, I think that both Great Lakes and Lisa D in Chesapeake had some comments in there that people may look at, looking at running some 3-team round robin mini tournaments where they come in, play for 3 hours, they clean the gym. In doing those things, you could probably get 3 waves on a court in a day by doing that. I think people understand with the lack of facilities that they're not going to get as much playing time as they have in the past, but would probably kill to come in and do things. Lisa D also said they're talking about doing 3-team pools and 4 teams over 2 courts. And I'm going to send out in the next week or so from the competition committee via the bid event committee some alternate formats that they're talking about for the qualifiers that I think it would trickle down. AJ and Tom did a lot of work on some alternate formats that may help with our facilities, keeping things safe, keeping the numbers down, yet we're still able to play.
Good. And if Lisa, if you or others that are doing some creative formats, are you reducing entry fee to teams on that? If you could put that in the chat, or you can just speak up if you want to.
Yeah, this is Lisa D. Yeah, we significantly reduced it. And there's no spectators allowed, chaperones allowed with the team and the coach. We've talked about limiting the number of players allowed to come in. We're just trying to limit the number because right now in my entire region, the number of people who are allowed to be indoors at the same time is very low. So that is our idea right now.
Yeah. So I had a question. Are you having families want to join clubs with the knowledge that they can attend to see their kid? And if so, are they trying to do Facebook Live or some other type of technology to see the match?
We will discuss it all at our annual club directors meeting at the beginning of October and let the clubs know. Those are the types of alternative play that would be offered. We already, towards the end of last season, when we were trying to get something finished at the end of last indoor season, had already put that in place. They knew that there was not going to be any spectators allowed, but we will communicate that to the clubs in a couple of weeks.
Here in Palmetto, our capacity is 50%. So we're going to try to control that, find out what each facility actually capacity is, and use gate tickets sold through the clubs to limit our numbers to get in. So, it'd probably be in the 8 to 10 range per team that would be allowed in based on facility to facility. But we've got some logistics to work out, but that's kind of what we're thinking right now, is that we're going to control that by gate tickets, and there will be none sold at the facility itself or live.
Say, Jimmy?
Yeah.
In Arizona, what we found, we've just been sort of waiting. The high school organization, the Arizona Interscholastic Association, just recently gave the green light for fall sports to go ahead. So after the cheer from the officials died down so we could hear each other, we were able to go ahead with our planning. Up to that point, we were developing these leagues that we could have on a regular basis, some outdoor situations. But once they gave the green light, the clubs sort of calmed down a little bit, and the high schools have started. They've already been a week into the season, and we're back on anticipating a regular schedule, and we're gearing up for girls in the spring. Boys are starting up right now with the idea that we have just enough private facilities to hold all of our boys tournaments. But the question will be what happens in the springtime when we have literally hundreds of girls teams, and there's a question as to whether or not we'll have access to any public schools, and we really rely very heavily on that.
Right.
So it's sort of a wait and see situation.
Thank you.
Jimmy, I'd like to, we had a league this summer going on, and I thought they did a real smart thing. They allowed one extra adult per team, one parent, as their IT person. That person was allowed to film the match and share that with the parents on the team through like Facebook Live. So that way you don't have to make arrangements to try to broadcast anything. I've seen some leagues where they would, set up one camera and broadcast that through like Zoom or whatever, but then you get only one perspective of the court. This way they can get their own perspective on each side of the court, and it just adds one person per team, but then they make the arrangements to share with their parents.
Thank you. Yeah,
Great Lakes, Great Lakes, what we're doing is we hired Baller Television to stream every one of the courts for our league, because we don't think we'll have be able to allow the spectators in.
Can you share what kind of cost you're looking at on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, no.
With all your money, Sandy, of course you would hire a TV station. We have to deal with little iPhones and a thing called Facebook Live and hope we have signal.
Jimmy, do you have any colleges close to your facilities? Because
Yeah.
I would bet that they have departments within the university that would probably even take that on as a project or multiple projects for their kids.
Yeah, we are checking into that, and currently the colleges are not, most of them have kind of pulled back and gone to remote learning. So it's, but yeah, that's a good idea, Andy. And we're probably, right now we're able to get some spectators in, but we are going to probably encourage teams to have a parent stream it live with, through Facebook Live or some other media source. It's being done in our state for soccer and some other areas. Like my grandson's in Colorado, and that's the only way I see them is through that.
Jimmy, this is Steve. AJ just put on the chat, which is what I was going to say, that you can Flow TV, Baller TV, they'll come in and they'll pay you money to do this. You actually have zero expense to have all your courts streamed. So, your bigger events, you can have it done at no cost.
And then they sell it to the parents?
And then they sell it to the parents. They monetize it that way. But as far as all your courts being covered, it's a simple way to do it.
That works for big events, Steve. They don't come in for your 2, 3, 4 court facilities.
They will say that again. They will not come into the small facilities.
Right, they can't. I mean, logistically, they just can't. They come in for the convention center events, yes, and they will come in and actually pay you money for it if you have, they'll do 70 courts, no problem. But all your smaller facilities that are spread all over that occasionally have a tournament, they're not going to do that. And that's really, if I look in our region, the number of events that are played in smaller facilities overall, if you combine that all, there's a lot more matches than the ones that are played in the huge facilities.
Steve or AJ, do you know what they price it to the parents at?
Steve here, you can kind of negotiate based on the model that you use. So for the juniors events, I think they have pretty standard pricing. They've got a little bit of experience and they know what to expect from number of participants per team or number of subscribers per team. There's some things you can negotiate. You can negotiate whether it's a one event pass, a season pass. Keep in mind that if we all link up and manage to do this together, parents are going to be more inclined to buy an annual pass versus just a one event pass. We're working on a Pro Beach event that we're getting ready to announce later this week. And we negotiated a separate kind of deal with them because of what will potentially be the draw of the event. And we came up with a daily rate for that event. So there's a lot of flexibility in those negotiations. A lot of it, as Bertel says, has to do with the size of your venue, the number of teams, and then the math works itself out at that point. So hope that helps. AJ, you may have a little more insight.
I think you pretty much covered it there. You have a lot of flexibility with how you negotiate and what you do. But the big thing to me is do we make a little bit of money off it as an event? Yeah, but that's nowadays that's not as big of a concern for us right now as just getting out there so that people are encouraged to play, encouraged to come. Parents feel encouraged to send their kids, if they don't want to come. And obviously, grandpa and grandma are not coming this year. At least we hope they're not coming this year. So that gives an avenue for them to be able to watch. But we have facilities as small as 7 courts and 5 courts for 2 and 3 day events that they're covering. I don't think they're gonna, like Bertel said, I don't think they're gonna cover all the 1 day events and different things. But Steve, I think Yvonne has it in their there's a couple places that I think have the stuff in their facility for their different leagues and events that they're working with.
Yeah, if you have dedicated facilities, you can get them to come out and install more or less permanent cameras. They do that with some negotiation, but then one person there needs to manage it. So they're not going to bring anybody out every weekend for a tournament, but that is a possibility, and we do that at our facility. But like I said, the fluctuating facilities, the multi-sports facilities where you might have a tournament one weekend and then 3 weekends later, that is near impossible because they just are not. They're not going to send somebody out to the middle of nowhere to set up cameras for a weekend for a couple courts.
You actually have the option now. They have like what's called Baller X, and I don't know if this helps, but they are asking us if we're interested this year in them just sending all the equipment to us and giving us a higher revenue share. And we have they train one of our staff to set them all up and monitor it on a device on an app. So I don't know if that helps or not as well.
Yeah, I would add to that, Jimmy, that in order for them to be successful, scalability is their real challenge. Scalability, and then the quality of the feed and the quality of the help, which seems to be the biggest, I guess, negative feedback towards those companies. The thing is they're kind of learning on the fly as well. So the model that AJ just talked about, I think, is the only way that they're really going to be able to scale. And if you can get a little bit higher revenue share and do the math, and that offsets you to add a staff person just to babysit that activity, you start to add value to your event at that point. So I think the more of us that do this, the better we serve our customers and our members. Not any particular vendor over another, but I think the concept is something that everyone should be thinking about if they haven't yet.
Good idea. Let's move on to one more subject, and anybody can share on this, and that would be which kind of feeds into this, if you have to reduce your attendance based on capacity of facilities, what is your plan to do that? How are you going to restrict it, or either count at the door or pre-sale tickets? So it's dual questions: attendance reduction, and if you've got the smaller tournaments, the 2-court, the 3-court, the 4-court, how are you handling ticket sales, and are you doing it remotely? Ideas. Come on, somebody speak up. You ought to be thinking about it already.
We don't currently have any restrictions as far as youth sports facilities, but I will say AJ's presentation that I've seen shows the actual numbers of how many people are on a court for a 3-team pool with all parents, how many people are on a court for a 3-team pool with just one parent, 1 pool of 4 on 2 courts. Maybe he could share some of those numbers. That might be helpful.
AJ, do you have that in some kind of something forms you can share with us?
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick. Yeah, it's all about, I call this density. And that's what we found with the facilities that we're working with for this year, trying to plan our worst case scenario to best case scenario, the density, how many people, and everybody's calculating it differently. Lots of different ones, kind of like you and I spoke before we started the call today. But if you do the 4 teams on 2 courts model with no spectators, you're pretty much, I wonder if I can copy and paste. I'll try copying and paste this into the chat, but you're pretty much looking at, about 30 people per court, with 1 spectator, okay, per athlete, you're going to 50. With no limit on spectators, okay, you're up to 60, 70. And that's, again, with 4 teams on 2 courts. Then when you go to, and again, I'm going to see if I can get this into the chat. I think I did, so we'll see if it goes in. Then you go to 3-team pools or 3 teams per court, and it starts to increase, right? No spectators, you're about 45 people. 1 spectator per player, 75. No limit on spectators, goes up to 90 to 105 for a 3-team pool. The normal 4 teams per court, which we're all probably most used to with a 4-team pool, no spectators, we're looking at 60 per court. And again, 60, I'm talking about 12 athletes and 3 coaches or bench personnel. That's the high end, right? I mean, most teams are probably 9, 10, or 11, but I go on the high side. And then when the numbers are lower, facilities like that. 1 spectator per player. This is the interesting stat for me. If you limit it to 1 spectator per player, your density is right around 100 people per court for a 4-team pool. Well, that's the same as a 3-team pool with no limit on spectators. And then you're talking no limit spectators. You're anywhere from 120 to 140 people per court. But the limiting to one spectator per athlete and trying to keep things, how would you say it, more normal format wise and everything else. The limit of one spectator per athlete seems to be one of the ways to go with that. I know that I think there are ticketing systems out there. I know that ours, we've managed to convert Sport Wrench. Now we've got an option to be able to limit the number of spectators per team. I can explain that process. I don't want to take up time to explain that, but I think there are others out there as well that have the ability to limit the number of spectators per team when you sell tickets. And so that might be helpful for some of these, especially some of these larger events where you're really, where you're, 10, 15, 30, 40, 50 courts.
Thank you. Anybody else have ideas or thoughts on this subject before we just open it up and then we'll cut it off for the day?
Jimmy, what we're doing is the 50 per court, like AJ said, and each team, let's say they have 10 players, and they get 10 wristbands. So there are 10, one spectator for each of the kids. And the team itself will manage the spectators and make sure that, there's only 10, and we're not taking any money at the door. We're not having any pre-sale tickets. And then the team pays the host for the actual spectators.
At the event or ahead of it? At the event?
Or
Okay.
they can mail the check. It doesn't
And
matter.
they're maxed out at 10 per team, or 10 per team.
Yeah.
Got it.
I'd also like to point out on one of AJ's items is start times. It's pretty crucial that to eliminate the big crowds is to stagger the start times and encourage people to not come in more than 15 minutes before the match time. If you can manage the match times, I know a lot of times referees want to start early and get it going, so the parents have to show up 30, 45 minutes early. If you make your matches start on time, the wave at least start on time, and then tell people not to come in till 15 minutes ahead of time. If you have 8 o'clock starts, half of them at 8 o'clock, half of them at 8:30, and then the afternoon wave, whether it's 2:30 and 3, you eliminate a lot of the bottleneck, which is really what people are trying to get away from, is the bottleneck. Other things about spreading out courts, and social distancing, you can take care of. But the start of the waves is the biggest time where you're going to get the herd, whether you have 2 entrances, one for athletes, one for parents, and staggering those times and managing when they come in the facility are all key things to social distance and to keep those numbers down.
Thank you, Andy. That's a good idea.
And guys, this last year in Boston, we even tried a triple stagger, 8, 8:30, and 9 on pool play days. And then we went 7:45, 8:15, and 8:45 on the bracket day. And it worked really well. And the main reason we did it was, that was pre-pandemic. We were doing it because they instituted bag checks on us this last year and metal detectors, having to go through all that. So we wanted to make sure everybody got in smoothly and we didn't have any big lines. But obviously now we're going to continue to do that.
And how did you communicate that to the team or directors, clubs? And they pretty much abided by it?
Yep. We got it out, information ahead of time and through the scheduling system and all that type of stuff. And no complaints whatsoever.
Anybody else with ideas? All right,
Is anybody dealing with modified rules in their states? And is that something we need to be aware of? I know some of the high schools have modified rules. I'm not sure if the states are going to push that down to club level as well.
Example of what?
In Massachusetts, they've got a 3-foot line that's called the COVID line off the center line, where you can't be attacking above the plane of the net. So there are different rule sets that are coming out to protect the kids, and I'm not sure if that's going to be pushed downward as well. We haven't heard anything yet. And the other problem we have too is
Somewhat.
on the spectator side, you can have spectators. You could say 50 per court or 100 per court, and then 2 weeks before your event, the rules change. Things tighten up, or things happen. We had a rule change out in Mass from 100 to 50 over the summer, and it affected a lot of different events going on. So it's just another fear.
Anybody else? Any other thoughts or comments before we leave? Put you can put stuff in the chat also if you don't want to speak. If you got ideas, and send them out. I'll record or push this up to YouTube and send a link out, and copy the chat too and send that out. Anybody else with questions or comments or thoughts?
Jimmy, Steve here, if you don't mind. Just want to remind everyone that the upcoming RVAA committee meetings and zonal meetings are all on the usavregions.org website. You can find them on the homepage on the right-hand side under upcoming events. Jen and I are updating that information with agendas and call-in information. But if you want to go map out your calendar for the next 2 or 3 weeks, everything's there in chronological order, and I hope it helps.
It tremendously helps, and I appreciate you doing that, Steve. Have everything in one place to find it. Hard to keep up with all these emails. Anyone else, speak up if you've got a question or something you'd like to share or a question to ask the other regions. With silence, I will assume that we're good for the day. Wait a minute.
I have a question real quick. Sorry. And I apologize if overstepping. I know that we're looking at the officials having electronic whistles, for them. Have we thought about what we're doing with an R2 are they going to have a regular whistle? I mean, I don't know if there's enough electronic whistles out there. Does anybody have any ideas on how we're doing that? They're just going to shake the net? Because I don't think we want them blowing a whistle down there.
Give them a cowbell.
Only in the South.
We have plenty.
Yeah, I'd say there's probably plenty to go around, but they have to get them early.
There
Time
aren't.
will run out.
Kids aren't going to go out and buy a $30 whistle, Jimmy.
Yeah.
That's why I was looking to see if there was an idea of what someone had. I mean, if it's a bell, if it's something else, I mean, and obviously we either have to supply it and clean it so anyway, I was just looking for ideas there.
Yeah, this is Craig. I've been reffing probably for 3 weeks now, and I haven't used an electronic whistle yet. I've just used my mask, and I've had the whistle underneath of it. So.
Is that a mask or a gator?
A mask. And I got them from Tong. Tong's the one that was selling them, and they work nice.
Idea.
How about a flag for the R2?
An option. You have to ask those officials, experts. All right, everybody, we'll cut this off. We're running close to an hour now. This will be our last one unless we have an upset in the nation. We won't get back together until we have our meetings. And like I said, Steve's got all those listed. I appreciate everyone sharing and getting on these calls. I think it's been helpful for us to share with each other and pick up ideas. Wish everybody the best, and talk to everybody soon. Have a good morning.
Thanks, Jimmy, for organizing all this.
Jimmy, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy.